Knowing the correct methods and safety procedures is halfway to being a good seafarer. Applying them is the other half. For example, this crew with no hard hats. An officer tests a pilot ladder without a safety harness. One slip and this seafarer could fall to his death. Even rigging ships' access and using them can be highly dangerous, as this accident report proves. An able seaman fell overboard from the upper platform of the ship's starboard accommodation ladder when in port. The seaman hit a large berthing fender and fell into the water below. He is missing, presumed dead. Accommodation ladders and gangways must be rigged and maintained to manufacturer's specifications and meet all recommended safety standards. If not, the consequences can be fatal. While approaching a North Sea port, two seamen were rigging a combination-type pilot ladder. The ladder's suspension wire failed, allowing the ladder to swing down and throw one of the seamen into the water. He was recovered, but later died in hospital. Equally, when pilots embark or disembark, they must be able to do so safely. Crew members who assist them must be aware of the correct operational procedures and the safety measures to accomplish this often hazardous operation. A pilot in the Suez Canal attempted transfer to a pilot launch. The accommodation ladder was lowered to the waterline and was struck by the pilot launch. The extra load broke the winch, throwing him into the water. He was recovered, but soon died of injuries. It is the master's responsibility to provide safe access to board a vessel. Equally, it is every seafarer's duty to ensure that the ship access systems are safe to use and in full working order. Different ships have different means of access. Hydraulic gangways, accommodation ladders, rear ramps, side hatches, gangways, passenger gangways, and so on. Whatever the method, it is important to be completely aware of the means of access on your ship. Whilst in port, many people use the accommodation ladder or the gangway. Crew, agents, pilots, customs officials, stevedores, visitors, and so on. One of their first impressions of how the ship is managed will be by the way the access to the ship is presented. Most common is the accommodation ladder. Normally between 5 to 20 meters in length, it is swung out and lowered by a hoist and inclined to an angle of not more than 55 degrees. At the bottom, there is a roller or wheels to allow for the ship's movement. A safety net must be rigged between the ladder and the ship, which is designed to prevent a person falling between the hull and the quayside. Unfortunately, many are rigged with a complete lack of understanding of how the safety measures are designed to work. The safety net is intended to save somebody if an accident occurs. But some nets are rigged to be of no use at all. Assessing the risks involved is essential when any accommodation ladder, gangway, or pilot ladder is about to be operated. Understanding each system, inspecting the equipment, and understanding how they are deployed are all part of the overall risk assessment process. The first step is to understand the manufacturer's recommendations. Their manuals are normally kept on the bridge or in the chief officer's office. It is also important to read and understand SOLAS section on pilot transfer arrangements. Ladders and gangways are constantly exposed to the weather, so they must be regularly checked. Are all the components present? Is there any damage? Are the moving parts worn? Has the equipment been well maintained? Think, where are the weak points? It would be good practice to fill out a checklist. Risk assessment is never complete. It is a constant process of understanding, checking, and rechecking to ensure equipment and procedures are kept at the highest standard. Risk assessment prevents accidents. It is at the heart of efficient ship management, even when rigging a ladder. When a ship arrives at a port and is secured at the quayside, the first deck operation is to deploy the accommodation ladder. There are different types of ladder, but the principles remain the same. To assemble it correctly, make sure there are enough experienced personnel, and those less experienced are supervised. Everyone must understand the procedure and their particular part in the operation. Check that the hoist and clutches are working. If they fail, the ladder could break loose. Make sure locks and cables are not rusted. Check that there are no obstacles below. When working over the side, a harness must be used and a life vest worn. The angle of inclination should not be greater than 55 degrees below the horizontal unless designed and constructed for greater angles. Do not board the ladder until it is firmly in place and all accessories correctly attached. Then, follow this simple check routine. Check the ladder is stable. Look for any signs of distortion, cracks, or corrosion. Ensure the safety net is rigged correctly to span the gap between the ladder and the vessel. This is extremely important. If the stanchions are not permanent, as on newer versions, make sure they are all at the correct height and locked securely. The ropes are not worn and are pulled tight. Ensure the bottom platform is level. If the quayside is equipped with large fenders, an extension or brow may be necessary. As these are often supplied and rigged by the Port Authority, make sure they are suitably sturdy, correctly positioned, and properly stabilized. In tidal berths, they will rise and fall with the tide. Check the brow remains secure. Ensure the moorings are tended as conditions change. Check that the angle of inclination is within the manufacturer's specifications. Make sure all the steps are safe and clear of grease and oil. Verify access is safe. Make sure the ladder will not obstruct cranes, even if their marker lines are barely visible. And post any notices that may be appropriate. Ensure all hoists and rigging equipment are stowed and secured at the correct heights, and that lighting is working and correctly positioned to give good illumination. Gangways are generally shorter and can be placed where they are best suited. With fewer moving parts than accommodation ladders, there is less to go wrong, but they must be rigged as per the specifications and with the recommended safety systems. If rigged to ship's railings, the railings must be designed for the extra weight. 1 meter wide and made of aluminium, a normal gangway has a non-slip surface, heavy-duty securing lugs and rolling wheels on the shore side. Ideal for ship-to-ship access, and the angle of inclination must not be too steep. Cruise liners generally use gangways, but most passengers are not seafarers and so less aware of potential risks. Their safety is your responsibility. Ships with stern ramps will often dedicate part of the ramp for use by personnel. The separation from the cargo must be highly visible and secure. Whatever system is on your ship, ensure it is always safe for use. The ship may be in port for several days, during which time conditions can change dramatically. The deck watch must monitor the changing circumstances. As weather changes and temperature drops at night, regular checks are necessary to ensure the equipment remains safe and correctly rigged for all to use. Post notices if conditions change and present a hazard. Be aware of tidal surges and how this may affect the angle of inclination. Consider swells from the other ships passing and whether damage could occur. Make sure the number of people using the ladder at any one time